ask you a question. If you plant a seed in the desert and it doesn't grow, is it the seed's fault or is it the soil's? You see, that seed has everything it needs inside of it to grow into something extraordinary. Put that same seed in rich and fertile soil, and you'll watch it flourish. Now, some seeds, they rely on fertilizer. They rely on sunlight daily and to be watered. But other seeds, they have to live with limited resources. They have to learn to battle the harsh conditions, to break through the cement and the dry terrain to grow. I like to think of myself as one of those seeds, a seed that was planted to be resilient, a seed planted in a low-income community, a red line community, with limited access to health care, limited funding for education, and poverty. But my seed was able to grow and flourish, not because of anything that was inside of me that was different, but because of the people in my community that took the time to plant a seed within me with the belief that I could make my dreams a reality. And they nourished that seed and watched it bloom. See, I remember growing up, and there's a word that stands out to me that my principal used to always say over and over again, so many times that it became our school motto, ram grit. See, I remember now that he said that word over and over again to instill in us the belief and give us the skill set that we needed to battle the harsh conditions ahead because of the barriers that were present in our lives and our community. See, if you don't know, the word grit is comprised of two different words, perseverance and passion. My perseverance I get from my parents, immigrants who left their lives behind to give me the opportunity to succeed, an opportunity that they didn't have. They taught me resilience and perseverance because they had battled the harsh conditions, and they taught me how to make the most out of limited resources. Now, my passion, it comes from a different place, a darker place. My passion comes from trauma. There's a phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. And this occurs when one experiences a traumatic event, but in the healing process, they're able to use that trauma to grow and find their greater purpose. I experienced post-traumatic growth when I was only 10 years old. And while I didn't know it at the time, watching my mother nearly die in her pregnancy is what led me to become passionate about science and to be the research scientist studying maternal fetal medicine that I am today. I remember something so clear about that night like it was yesterday. If you know my mother, she is a loud Latina woman. Her voice is so loud that in every room she enters, she commands that attention. But this night was different. See, I remember waking up and seeing her covered in blood. And she didn't scream. She didn't yell. She was calm. She told us to gather in the car, and as we headed to the emergency room, I remember the silence in that car that night was deafening. And it's because we were all thinking the same thing. Was my brother going to survive? Was my mother going to survive? Or were we about to make the impossible choice of having to choose between the two of them? When we walked into that emergency room, I had no doubt in my mind that everyone there shared the same concerns that I had for the lives of my brother and my mother. But what we were met with was something unexpected. Because what we were met with were questions upon questions regarding the legality of my mother's citizenship and her health care coverage. Questions that delayed care that my mother should have received instantly. But luckily, I'm here to tell you that the story has a happy ending. See, my mother and my brother did survive, and they are very healthy. But I remember when my brother was born, and I went to school the next day, I looked at my teacher and I said, "Teacher, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm going to be the doctor that my mother needed, the doctor that makes a difference." And my 5th grade teacher, she looked at me and she said, "You can do anything you want to do, and you can be anything you want to be." She planted a seed in me. And I clung to that seed all through elementary school, all through middle school, to the dream of becoming that doctor that my mother needed. But it wasn't until high school that reality set in. In high school, my family underwent extreme poverty. We faced food insecurity, and I started to lose sight of that dream. It was my junior year of college that my parents underwent medical debt, $2,000, money that I hoped would be used to fund my college admissions applications, and my essays, and my ACT testing. But because of this, I figured the money is more importantly used towards my parents' finances for their medical situation. So I lost my dream of going to college, and I started to wilt. My roots started to dry up. It was a guidance counselor that knew of my passion, knew of my dream of becoming a doctor, that saw me start to lose sight, lose hope. She reached out to me with an opportunity to apply to an internship at an outstanding cancer research center, to do actual science research, to make a difference over the summer. And the best part, a stipend of $2,000. Oh, I thought, this is it. This is my time. This is my chance. I can not only save my parents of their financial situation and take them out of medical debt, but I can also use this opportunity to reach back at my dream and to grow towards my goal of becoming a doctor. That summer, it felt like sunlight was breaking through. I remember this internship was very specifically targeted towards underrepresented minorities in medicine. And over the summer, I was able to talk and interact with doctors that looked like me, that came from where I came from, that shared the struggles that I was currently facing. And they had made it that far. So I thought, if they can do it, I can do it too. So when I went back to school after that summer, I told my teacher, I know what I want to go to college for. I'm going to study medicine, and I'm going to be a doctor. But see, my senior year was different. That year, I was bouncing in and out of a group home, and because of this, my attendance didn't look too bright, and my grades started dropping. And so my advisor gave me the harsh reality and told me that maybe my circumstances are too limiting, that maybe I should put this dream in the past and enter the workforce instead. I started to wilt. And it wasn't until a local librarian reached out to me, gave me the resources I needed. She helped me not only apply to financial aid that I didn't think that I could even apply for because I feared the question on my FAFSA that said, state your parents' social security number. She helped me apply to financial aid, but more importantly, she taught me the power of storytelling. And she sat with me and helped me turn my heartbreak and my setbacks into a strategic plan for my success. Those essays that she helped me write helped fund 2 years of my college education. When I got to college, I figured, yes, the worst part is over. I've made it here. Smooth sailing from here on out till I become a doctor. But it wasn't exactly like that. See, when I got to college, it felt like I was in a race with everyone else around me, but I had to run twice as hard, but the finish line kept getting further and further away from me. See, because while I was in college, I was responsible for my own finances. I had to work a full-time job while being a full-time student. And at the time, I didn't know that being a full-time student was a privilege that I didn't have access to. In this moment, I started to wilt. But what brought me back was those long nights spent at the hospital working as a patient care assistant, where I was able to recognize the reality and the purpose of my dream. I remember hearing a nurse say, "Oh my goodness, I am stuck with patient 42 again. I am so sick and tired of having to use the translator every time I go into her room. You know what, tonight, I think I'm just gonna avoid her unless it's an emergency." I walked into patient 42's room. She was fluent in Spanish, so I was able to talk to her and connect. And what I heard was that she was crying not because of her condition, but because she felt alienated and isolated and lonely in her most vulnerable moment. "Oh my goodness, the patient at the end of the hall is driving me insane," I heard another nurse say. "She keeps asking for all these luxuries. Doesn't she know this is a hospital and not a hotel?" I went to check on the patient at the end of the hall. She was the only Black woman on the unit that night, and she was merely asking for a bonnet for her daughter that was bedridden and balding. A bonnet that we had in stock, by the way. And in these moments, I realized that this journey of fighting past the barriers and fighting to get into college and making my way through, this journey was not about me. This journey was to get me to where I needed to be, to give me the voice that I needed to make a difference, to give me the skills that I needed to plow the land so that I could plant other seeds and grow a garden of leaders from my soil, from the garden that I came from, like those other leaders in my community that nourished me, that planted a seed within me. It was my time to not only bloom, but to plant. Because you see, the power of community is that we are all gardeners. It only takes one moment, one mentor, one opportunity, one internship to make a difference. And the beautiful thing about the life cycle of a plant is that a plant's purpose is not to bloom. A plant's purpose is to pollinate, to spread seeds and ensure that they are planted and that they can grow and continue the cycle over and over again. You see, the time is even more critical now because while the funding for our DEI programs are decreasing, the mortality rate of minority groups are increasing. We are all gardeners, and it is our responsibility to plant the seeds of belief in the youth, to encourage them to become the leaders that we need to create the future that we so desperately seek. So I encourage you, the future will not wait. The time to plant is now.